Hi there. I'm Mike Morales. You are listening and watching the Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels. I'm here in sweltering San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
Jim, and I have been pleasantly surprised. We have gone through just about the entire line of Los Arango tequila. Now, this is one that has distribution all across the United States, including Ohio, where Jim is. And this has been a long time coming because we've had some mix-ups with the bottles. Some were sent to Jim, some were not sent to Jim, some were sent to me, some were not. But anyway, they're all here. Just be careful, folks, when you do order online. This cap is not wood; it's a screw top, and it's hard plastic, but it can chip on you. What this looks like too is the distillery itself is known for these huge fermentation or reposado vats, and that's what they're representing here with this tequila. So we're just gonna, if you've been watching the whole line with us, great. If not, if you're just joining us, we're gonna taste the juice first. Then we're gonna tell you all about it. I'm gonna pour mine in my Glencairn. We have very minimal information on the brand itself, except that the Blanco won a double gold medal at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2020, this year, right before it hit the fan. If you're watching this, I'm not sure where this is going to be, how late in the year this is going to premiere. But right now we are currently quarantining in place, and we've been quarantining in place since 1999, folks. This is nothing new for us. Okay, it's just, the faces have changed, but the premise is still the same.
That's lighter color than the Añejo.
That's very, very light. The Añejo had a beautiful whiskey Scotch color to it.
Very deep golden, yeah.
Yeah, this one is like a pale straw color.
Right.
And we flipped over the Blanco. The Blanco, for those of you who know what we're talking about, this particular distillery is where they make Corralejo. This is the Corralejo is a flagship brand. This is the more of the top line for that distillery, Los Arango, which is named after it's named after Pancho Villa. That was his actual real name. Beautiful legs and tears. Nice little string of pearls there, man. But it's very pale. It doesn't give us. All we know is they're telling us they're being aged in American oak barrels. However, that Añejo had a very Scotch forward nose. It was really weird. I got like all three things going on there. It was like bourbon. The aroma was bourbon. The flavor was very reminiscent of a whiskey, and yet once it went through the entire palate, and the more it opened up, the more it behaved like a Scotch.
Yeah,
so,
very much.
Which we liked it. We thought.
Yes. And I'm guessing just by the color. I'm thinking about this totally in terms of the barrel. This is not going to have as much of that barrel characteristic to give it that really heavy whiskey flavor and character. I do think this is going to have a little bit more tequila to it than the Añejo, but
yeah, well, it's pretty to look at. So let's. Okay, I'm still getting some char.
Little, but right not nearly as much. Right off the top.
What I want to know is if it plays nice. Now I'm getting some anise on the side of the, just a hint. I want to know if the Blanco is playing nice with the barrel. That's what I want to know.
Right.
Because, depending on the master distiller, depending on the market they're going for, they might want to attract more oak heads, as we call
the alcohol head.
The alcohol head, yeah. They may be trying to attract folks who are drinking Scotch and bourbon and whiskey and trying to bring them all into the fold to try them, and that's okay. They've been doing that since the 60s. I'm getting more anise as it's opening up. I'm getting less barrel now.
Yeah.
Because that barrel right up the top, right? Just as
Yeah, but like the añejo, after you give it a minute to open up, it starts to blend in with its surroundings, and it becomes a nice background to everything else.
yeah. Yeah, it's way more subtle. The I was surprised that the añejo was really, that smoke was in your face. Almost
And
like
I'm picking up more of, on the Blanco, we had the very peppery flavor. I'm picking the pepper up in the nose now more than I have on the other two.
See, I'm getting the anise, the licorice to the side of, and I'm getting it on this side. You'll see me turn from left brain to right brain, and breathing through my in with my mouth open. Again, valid techniques, folks. You can actually taste this before you even ingest it. So,
oh yeah.
it's got a hint of that Scotch that we got in the añejo. I'm really glad that we went out of order.
Yeah.
When we tasted
that gives us a real good idea of what we might get here.
Yeah.
How this Blanco made its way through all that time.
What did you say to me when we went through that Doers? You said that this smells like hay or clover.
Yeah,
remember you said that to me.
It smells like it smells like the flora that's growing around where the source of the water and the source of the peat is from. Because when you put those cereal grains that go into Scotch whiskey in there, they're picking up the same pollen and the same yeast and all of the same elements that are out there, and you get that kind of hayfield clover sweetness on there. It really depends on how the Scotch is treated after that, but this has that same characteristic, which you said something in when you were talking about they use a proprietary yeast.
Yes.
If they're using something that's picking up the other flora around it, even with the agave, it's going to have that clover smell. It's like having local honey. It tastes different here than it would down there. I think this is probably what it smells like around. If you had a really good nose for what the fields smell like around the agave fields, I bet it's close.
Well, to be fair, here's what I'm going to tell. What I know of the distillery, it's the only distillery in Guanajuato. It's been there for a long, long time. In the past, Corralejo, the flagship brand, was known for being unstable. There was a time in the previous agave shortage, not this one that we're in now, here in 2020, that's been going on for about 2.5, almost 3 years now, probably longer than 2017, I believe. The one prior to that, they were known for having the flavor profile was unstable. The rumor was that they were using agave that was outside of the denomination of origin in neighboring states or outside of the boundaries of Guanajuato. And there were times where Corralejo was actually a mixto, but they were presenting it as a full blown 100% because of that. So what the agave smells like and what it tastes like, I'm not sure. I know, for instance, that the agave in Tamaulipas, according to Germán González, he liked to use an 80-20 blend when he was making Chinaco. He wanted to use 80% agave from the highlands, but he would throw in 20% agave from Tamaulipas because of the flavor profile. I'm not sure if they're getting all of this agave here from Guanajuato, but if they're growing their own, they're using a proprietary yeast that comes from their own agave, right, wherever they're sourcing that. So, but I like the nose on this. It's much more subtle than the añejo was.
Right.
But I think we got to taste it. Let's dive in and go and.
Old barrel. You get that little bit of oak tannin right on the front.
It's got that pepper back.
The peppers travel to the back. I'm guessing that the char on the barrels they're using for the añejo is a much higher level, maybe a 4 than this one. This one's maybe a 2, because you get very fresh wood tannin notes in there. That is not a barrel with heavy char. There's enough to give it that little hint on the nose, but this is oak tannin, and the peppers in the back. This is mimicking whiskey. This is like a younger whiskey, where the añejo is like an older Scotch.
Right. Exactly.
And are you picking up a little bit of that vegetal now, more in the front and a little bit on the sides, a little tart, maybe a little even to bitter?
What I'm getting is a little bit of the bitterness. What I'm noticing most is the rear of my palate, where I'm getting the pepper that the Blanco had.
Blanco had the pepper almost right here, like the beginning of your lips, and bang.
Yeah. And then I see, for me, the first intake was sweet. And then the pepper just exploded, you know. I was getting the anise smell in the nose. I'm not getting it so much on the palate right now, and I probably should have rinsed in between sets, but what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to pour some in my hand. We're just going to diffuse it in our hands like we're using hand sanitizer, boys and girls. And first we get the alcohol up front.
Yep.
Diffuse it in your hands. So hopefully you're not wearing perfume. If you're doing this with us at home, don't use perfume or cologne. Much more subtle on the wood than the other was.
And now I don't get any of the smoke, the char.
Yeah, and I'm not getting so sticky either.
So that tells me that añejo picked up a lot of the wood glycerin in the time it spent.
What we know from the press release is that this is a double distilled Blanco, hopefully that's the base alcohol that they're using for this tequila, for this whole line. And it's double distilled in column stills, which I'm familiar that I know that distillery has. But it's very clean though. There's no, the char was so prominent in the añejo that it was almost overwhelming, and it stuck to my hands almost.
Yeah.
And even off camera, I was telling Jim, this is really, the more I let it open up, the more I let it sit there, the more it reacts like that, like the Doers, like the Scotch the tasting that Jim and I did with Illegal Smooth. Very reminiscent. That's why I asked him about the clover and the honey, because I'm not sure what the terrain is, or even if this distillery is sourcing all their agave from Guanajuato or other regions. I'm not sure. There's when you double distill in a column still, it smooths out edges, and if they're if the agave is a bit gamey to start with, and they're using proprietary yeast to bring those flavors out, then definitely the column still is going to smooth out the edges like it would with a rum, before you stick it in the barrel. Let's give you the particulars on this, and just so y'all know what we're talking about here. Los Arango is named after Pancho Villa. This is coming out of 1368. It is it's produced and bottled by Tequila Corralejo in Guanajuato, in Benjamo, Guanajuato. This distillery is known to have a diffuser, and there is a stigma attached to tequilas that are produced at distilleries known to have diffusers. And I was telling Jim off camera, I have had tequilas that were produced at other distilleries known to have diffusers, where their brand is not is not reacting and acting like a diffuser tequila. And the reason I say that is because I have a whole bunch of diffuser tequilas that are on the market right now. I have a whole library full of them. I do that to keep myself informed as to what the new technology is all about. Because you can rest assured that they're going to come up with flavor enhancers, aroma enhancers. Some of the biggest perfume and scent companies, aroma companies, have headquarters in Mexico City for a particular reason. Their biggest clients are the tequila industry, and I know that. So, but I'm gonna say, Jim, that they're using the Blanco tequila. I didn't want to like this.
I don't think this is definitely not diffuser.
No.
And I think this Reposado is the natural step from the Blanco to the Añejo. That you can actually tell that this flavor is changing with the time it spends in the barrel and developing over that period of time. And I think this is a whiskey drinker's tequila.
I do too. I think that they're whiskey and scotch.
Yeah,
because of the way the Añejo reacts. I think that's the crowd they're going after. They're pinpointing that crowd. But by the same token, with that Blanco has a lot of character.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so maybe what's going on is they're going to capture the oak heads and the whiskey people and the bourbon guys and the scotch guys. But by the same token, they're not losing their core, their core audience, which is tequila drinkers.
Right.
And if that's the case, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, Jim, you're probably going to agree with me. And I didn't want to do this. Okay, this is against my better nature.
He almost left the sign on the other table and just didn't bring it with him.
But I'm going to have to go brand of promise nominee in this Reposado category. I think it's the legit. It is the higher line of Corralejo. Even though Corralejo has nationwide, probably global distribution, Los Arangos probably won't be far behind. From what I know of Infinium, Infinium used to import Casa Noble when it in its heyday, and that was before Casa Noble was picked up by somebody else. But so I think this brand has taken over where Casa Noble left off, and I think Infinium has some stringent. In order to be picked up by them, they have some stringent guidelines. I know that Pernod Ricard has the same type of stringent guidelines. They won't invest in a brand, if they're taking shortcuts, and I believe that because I've been told that before by other people who have done business with Pernod. So I'm gonna say this entire line is probably worth the money that they're asking for.
I would agree with that.
What do we have for total wine? Because I can give you MSRP, but what have we got for total wine on the
44.49 for the Blanco, 58 for the Reposado, and 66 for the Añejo.
Now, see, the way they have it here in the press release is $45.99 for the Blanco, $50 for the Repo, and $62 for the Añejo. So, but those are MSRP. Those are suggested retail prices, and everybody knows that these guys set their own pricing. Here's what I will tell you. Also, according to their press release, they are saying that they are cooked in adobe ovens, which I know that are available on the Corralejo grounds for 36 hours, and they are fermented using specially formulated yeast that helps enhance the fruity and herbal notes. And Los Arango is double column distilled. They claim to be using aged in American oak barrels. I wish they would.
Barrel's definitely there. That is absolutely true.
But I'm thinking that they're using Scotch barrels and they're just not telling people because that Añejo really, really reacts like a Scotch.
Yep.
I loved it. What can I say? It passed our gauntlet. I think that if they continue to make tequila in this way, everybody's gonna it's got a tequila for all seasons.
Yep, I agree.
But, you know, you guys be the judge. If you've had this tequila before, and you're watching us on YouTube, you know, leave us a comment, write us an email. You know, don't forget to subscribe to our to the email list, which is our newsletter, the YouTube channel, and anywhere where you download your podcasts, because you will also listen to us on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere else. But that's our take on Los Arango. It's a hell of a line, and it's gonna. Like I said, I didn't want to like it, but I did.
Yeah.
So
there it is.
There we go. And so that's our take. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
You've been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels. Please subscribe. Please follow us on all of our social media. But whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.